Are you
All right.
broadcasting it from Beachange?
Yes, it's on in Facebook. All right. Good morning, everyone. Shall we start, JB?
Yeah, I'm
Yeah.
ready. Let's go.
Good morning, everyone. I'm Bharathiraja here. Hope you had a very good. Maybe I think due to this COVID, everything is locked down at home. And now today we have a great session, and I believe last week you also had the same. And today we have JB, international business coach from Malaysia, and he's one of my close friend as well. And he's a co-founder and CEO of Cavemen Global Malaysia, as well as founder of the Valdes Group Private Limited Singapore, as well as TVG Coaching Malaysia. Oh, bro, you have a lot of designation altogether.
Yeah,
And
and
having
these are the ones that worked. You should see all the
yeah,
ones that failed.
right. And you've been supporting to a lot of entrepreneurs, helping them, coaching them, and also business owners and executives turn their ideas to reality. So that's how a kind of a profile our speaker have today. And I'm also quite excited to hear from him. He's a very good coach. I would like to tell you guys. And I had attended his program in Malaysia a couple of years before, and I would say he's the best. So, and in order to get a slot from him is very difficult, and he's a very busy guy. And thank you so much, JB, for taking this and giving us an opportunity. And you said yes immediately, and
Yes.
I thank you from my heart. And now I invite JB to take over the session. Thank you, bro. Now
Thank you,
it's
thank
your
you,
turn.
thank you.
Yeah.
Thank you so much. So first things first, Vanagam, thank you so much for having me.
Great.
I have a very special place in my heart for Chennai. I love Bharati. We don't spend enough time talking. Honestly, I wish we spoke more, but India and Chennai is actually a big. It's really a big thing for me, and I'm so glad I get a chance to give back because um, I went to Chennai for my first trip to India. I did a nutty leaf reading. I cleared what I hope is a lot of karma while I was there. I was a part of Money and You program, which some of you I met there. And since then, I've been to Bangalore. I've been to Delhi. I've traveled around to Lucknow. And I've been supporting different entrepreneurs in India along with my partner. And I've also been supporting them here. And what I really want to share with you is a little bit about what I've learned about sales and marketing, especially in this like current lockdown situation and how to move forward from there. So I'm going to give you a couple of rules on how I encourage you to use this. The first thing is have something to write with. Most of what I'm going to be telling you won't be on the slides. So you want to have something to write with that you can actually capture your notes, that you can capture your content so that as I'm sharing with you, most of the information is going to be in the stories. It's not going to be on the slides. So make sure that you capture there. The second thing is do not wait. Do not wait to ask your questions. Ask your questions in the chat whenever you have them. Okay, at the very end, I'm going to have a Q&A session, but if you ask a question and it's relevant to something that I am answering or talking about right then and there, I will stop and I will answer your questions. So please make sure that you answer the questions. If you are okay to answer the questions in the chat, please type okay in the chat. If you're good to ask your questions in the chat, type okay in the chat. Thank you, Bharati. Please type okay in the chat if you are okay to ask questions there. Thank you, Akash. Thank you, Rams. Thank you, Natharajan. Thank you, Madevi. Thank you, Murugan. Thank you. I'm not sure who OnePlus 7 Pro is. Please make sure you put your name so I can actually like call out your name. Thank you. But I'm gonna jump in now. So I spoke to Bharati and he asked me basically like to come up with to come in and talk about sales and marketing. And I thought what was more important was to what is actually going to happen after the lockdown. Like, so how do you actually build your business so that you survive the lockdown and then carry forward into the next one? So what I really want to do is talk to you a little bit about the psychology of sales and marketing and also how you need to change the approach to sales and marketing so that you can actually really take advantage of the situation and also to understand what's going to really work. Okay, so I'm going to talk to you about how and why you must change. You cannot stay doing the same thing thinking that it's going to work. Okay, So you must change your sales approach moving forward. So I'm going to tell you a little bit about myself. Bharathi kind of introduced you. I am a professional coach and trainer. I've been training all around the region. I train in Singapore, Malaysia, Myanmar, where else? The Philippines, India. I go to fairly regularly before all of the lockdowns. And I am trained. I'm a graduate of Money and You. I've done a lot of different other programs as well. And so I bring a lot of that to the table in terms of how I present. I'm going to tell you lots of stories throughout. Just to give you a point of reference on who I have trained, these are just some of the companies that I've trained. Some of these are like Fortune 500 companies. We also train really small startups and stuff like that. So I'm here to share. So when we get into like the Q&A period, again, I really recommend that everyone please ask questions throughout. Like, don't wait to hope that your questions kind of come up at the end. Make sure that you ask them, okay? Which brings me to, why are you here? Now, I'm going to make an assumption. I cannot know for sure that you are here for these reasons, but I'm going to assume that you're here because you want to be ahead of your competitors. There is a desire for you to be able to move forward, okay? To move forward from where you are and to be ahead of your competitors. Noted, Ashtush. So basically, you also want you and your team to understand how to generate sales better. Like, otherwise, why would you be here? Why would you be listening to a sales and marketing conversation if you didn't want to be able to do better sales, right? Then you want to have an easier time connecting with potential clients. You're either looking for more leads, or you want to deepen your leads and you want to improve the quality of your leads so you're getting more back and forth with your audience. And you want to have better relationships with your customers so that they keep working with you. Because there's a saying in business that acquisition costs almost 4 times as much as retention. So you want to retain your customers for as long as possible. I have 2 requests before I get into the rest of the content. So the first one I've already asked, which is that you type your questions in the chat. The second one is, if I start going really fast, because I get very excited. So if I go really fast, will you please type slow in the chat if I'm going too fast? If I'm going way too fast, will you type slow? If you're willing to do that, type Y, the letter Y in the chat. If you're willing to slow me down when I go too fast, type Y. Thank you, Ratna. Thank you, Akash. This is very important. When I get very excited and my coffee kicks in, I go really fast. And so I need you to do that. Thank you, Ashutosh. Thank you very much. Thanks, Sam. Okay, let me jump in now. So these are the 4 reasons that I believe you're here. So today's journey, what we're going to do first, thanks, Rams, is we're going to talk about the key aha, like the key wow, I didn't know that sort of situation. Then we're going to talk about the CCV principle, and I'll share with you what CCV stands for after this. Then we're going to talk about how education is fundamental to generating business. Then we're going to talk about the PVP approach. Okay, and this is a really important distinction for people to build, whether it's in scale or whether it's in small and startup. Lastly, what people buy. And I'm going to talk about this because a lot of the news is talking about like essential services, and they're talking about a lot of these kinds of like essential goods. And I want to talk about what people actually buy, because this is a really important distinction. And I'm going to tell you some stories about how I know for a fact that this is what people buy. And then when we get to the end, we're going to have a question and answer session where I'm going to answer as many as possible. Kavi, if you have a question, you don't need to raise your hand. You can just type it in the chat. So I want to know, how many of you in this group, this is a question I'm going to ask you to type. I want you to type S if you are a small business. And a small business means that you are less than 20 staff, right? You are less than 20 staff, less than 5 million USD in turnover. Less than 20 staff, less than 5 million USD. If you are more than 20 staff and more than 5 million, right? Please type M, the letter M in the chat. So S or M. S if you are a small business, M if you are a medium-sized business or better. Okay, thank you. Planning to start, thank you. If you have not started, you can type in the letter 9. Like, eventually I will. Like, if you have not started a business, you can type in 9. Thank you, everyone. I asked this question because I really want to know, thank you very much, where you stand so that I can position it. I'm going to also share with you some of the principles that I work with, whether they're with CEOs of multinational companies or if they are like startups. You know, there's a lot of principles here that are going to be really relevant. Okay, so let's jump in. Right now, COVID-19, a lot of people are expecting business to go back to business as usual, right? And the fact of the matter is that's wrong. It will never be the same. There are so many articles now. It's been like 6 weeks, 6 weeks here in Malaysia. It's been longer than that in China. It's been since December in China. India started about 6 weeks ago with like some of the shutdowns in terms of like closing the e-visas, in terms of like limiting travel, right? And the fact of the matter is that it's been long enough that we are starting to understand home-based business, like people working from home, is going to be the standard. People are not going to be buying the same way. Business will never be as usual again. It is going to change. It has to change. And I'm going to say that again, it has to change. And I'll tell you why. Look, one of the things about Bharati's organization, for those of you who don't know Be The Change, and I've known Bharati for a while, and one of the things that we know is the world doesn't work the way that it currently is structured. It just doesn't work. If it did, we wouldn't have poverty. If it did, we wouldn't have hunger. Everybody would have enough access to all of the supplies, all of the goods, and all of the food that they need to. Something fundamentally needed to change. And from a spiritual level, right, COVID-19 was the kindest way for the universe to do that. It was the easiest way to do that. So business is not going to go back to as usual, and we should all be happy about that. It doesn't matter how big your company is. We should be happy about it because the playing field is very level, okay? So business will not go back to as usual. Just a quick reality check. Whether you are a traditional business or you are a digital business, the principles that I'm going to share with you are the same. Whether you are a traditional business moving into the digital because you are stuck at home and because you can't do like any kind of traditional business because you're high touch, it doesn't matter. The principles for digital and the principles for traditional are the same. Okay, and I really want to emphasize that because a lot of people get stuck on the idea that if you're a traditional business, it has to be a certain way, and digital business, it's the same. These principles that I'm going to share with you are the same. And if you keep thinking that if you run away and you go into social media or you run online and you just start posting Google ads and you start doing all that stuff and you invest in SEO by itself, it's going to work. It won't, because you need to have the mindset of what it takes for you to actually transfer your business and make it relevant in the future. So traditional or digital changing from a traditional to a digital business won't save you. If your business has problems, your business has problems. And so when we're talking about sales and marketing, it works for both, but it works as you're transitioning between them. If everyone is getting the information, type clear. If I am being clear so far, type clear in the chat. CLEAR, clear in the chat. Thank you. Thank you very much. Okay, cool. So I'm going to keep going and I'm going to keep checking in with you periodically. So please don't fall asleep because I'm going to keep asking you to type stuff in the chat. So if you fall asleep, I'll know because you'll stop answering. Okay. So with that, here's the key aha. This is the key takeaway. And I really encourage you to write this down. If you do mind maps, you can build a mind map around this. It's up to you however you want to do it. Okay. But here's the key aha. Right now is the best time to fail. Because everyone is failing. It doesn't matter who in the world you are. It doesn't matter how big your business is. This is the best time to fail. And you want to fail as quickly as possible and as actively as possible because you have the most room for failure because right now, nobody knows what they're doing or how to do it. And I think this is a really important thing for people to understand and to recognize because either you are committed to your breakthrough or you are committed to just surviving. And if you're just committed to surviving, you'll last as long as your savings last. Okay? So this is the best time to fail. Google has cut their marketing budget. Google has billions of dollars in the back, and yet they're cutting their spending. Big companies, they don't know how to even run their teams remotely. They're stuck. They have no idea what they're doing. And so the smaller you are, the more agile you can be, the faster you can fail. The faster you fail, the faster you can adjust and you can adapt. Okay? So Sam, here's the point. If you fail at the beginning of a journey, let's say that you have a plan to change your business model and you fail in the first day, your investment is very low. If you fail on the 11th month, it's very expensive. So what you want to do is you want to fail right now while everyone is failing. COVID-19 has leveled the playing field. This has never happened before, ever. It has never happened this way before. It has never occurred. Look, even if you have industry breakdowns, real estate crashes, or transport crashes, right? For instance, like the airline industry goes up and down all the time. Oil and gas crashes every 7 years. The fact is, we have never had every industry stop at the same time. And that's what happened right now. Because everyone is failing, you have an opportunity to succeed. So now is the best time to fail because everyone is failing. I hope that answers your question, Sam. If it answers your question, type yes. Exactly. Exactly, Sam. The sooner you fail, the faster you're going to adapt to a new way. The idea is that basically you want to fail 3 times before your competitor fails the first time. Because by the time you finish your 3 failures, you've gained so much experience that you're ready to go. So ride the ups and downs. Assume the predictable. People and businesses are going to go down and then back up. The only question is, do you start going up before everyone else, or do you wait until everyone has caught up to you? If you're able to ride it out successfully, this down and back up, you'll be fine. What most people get stuck on is that they freak out. It's just like getting onto the roller coaster. They see the drop and they say, no, I'm not going to get off. But the fact is, you're already in the line. You've invested your time anyway. If you believe in your business and you believe in what you are creating for yourself, whether you're a startup, a not yet started up, a small business, or a big business, you're going to have to ride through this because no matter what, you're involved. If you're at home, you're involved. If you're in the economy, you're involved. You have no choice. You don't have a control over that part. You're in it. And so the sooner that you get onto the ride and the sooner that you take the ride, the more that you're going to actually be able to learn from it. So ride the ups and downs because, as I said, everyone is failing right now. Okay? Big companies don't know how to operate. Okay? The cheapest time in the last 7 years to buy Facebook ads is right now because it's gone down by more than 30%. The cheapest time to buy Google ads is right now because the price has gone down by nearly 30%. And the fact is, it's because these big players, these ones who have these massive overheads, they've got to pay for thousands upon thousands of staff all over the world. They don't know how to make money right now because everybody's in lockdown and they're hoping the government will save them. So my point is this: businesses are going to fall, they're going to rise. Some businesses will disappear. It's just the nature of it. All you have to do is ride it out successfully. And the sooner that you fail, right, the sooner that you fall, the sooner you can start coming out before the cost is too great. Which brings me to the first lesson in sales and marketing. This is the CCV principle. Copy communicates value. And what I mean by that is this: be aware of how and what you say. People are constantly going to be looking for different bits and pieces of things you've said. Like they'll look for your company, they'll check out your website, they're gonna look for your information on Facebook, they're gonna check your Instagram, they're gonna be constantly looking for you and they're gonna be researching you. So you wanna make sure that you are aware of how and what you say, because the sale doesn't happen at the point when you're talking to them. People do their homework, okay? And depending on the personality type, they may do their homework better than you did on yourself, okay? So I wanna be really clear about this. No news is bad news. Like if you have no website, bad news. If you have no Facebook, bad news. If you have no like social media presence, it's bad news. People don't know what to do with you. It's like you don't exist. So no news is bad news. Even if you're posting once a week, you have to have at least some level of communication once a week. And we're going to talk about kind of what to post once a week. Okay? Which brings me to this. Bad news is bad news. You don't want other people talking about you. You want to be the one that's leading that conversation. You want to make sure that you're the person that's actually getting out there and talking to people about your information. So no news is bad news and bad news is bad news. Okay? Ultimately, it comes down to this. Image is everything. You don't want to find, you want to find yourself on the cover of the newspaper, right? With a like hero's welcome. You don't want to be on the cover of the newspaper with like a scandal or a complaint. And on social media nowadays, especially, and especially with these things like the lockdowns and social distancing, people speak about information a lot faster than they ever did before. 50 years ago, you had to wait for a newspaper to come to you. 20 years ago, you had to hope that it was reported on CNN. Nowadays, you instantly get information. So you want to make sure that you have as much PR skill as you do anything else. And so your copy, the copywriting ability is really important to your business because it's going to help you to understand how to lead the conversation and how to create the kind of relationship that you're looking for. If this is cool, type cool in the chat, COOL in the chat. If this is cool, thank you, Bharathi. So I'm going to keep talking about this and I'm going to keep sharing with you. So one of the things that I had to learn personally was I had to learn how on earth to create a social media presence for myself, because I'll tell you this, you have a brand, whether you like it or not. So you need to curate your content. Then the picture here is gardeners. Okay, so they're actually gardening and they're growing a garden. If you think about it like this, your social media presence, right? Let's say that you use Instagram. Let's say that you use Facebook, Twitter, LinkedIn. You have a website. Perhaps you have TikTok, depending on what you're doing, right? You may have a YouTube channel. Let's say you have all of these things. Are they consistent, right? Have you ever seen a garden? And this is a real question I'm going to ask to everyone. Have you ever seen a garden that's completely out of control? It's wild. It's like a jungle. If you've ever seen that, type Y in the chat. You know, like you see, like you drive by and you're just like, there's got to be snakes and animals and stuff in there. Yeah, thanks, Em. And you don't want to go there. You don't want to walk into that. It's scary. It's potentially dangerous. Thanks, Rana. It's possibly very dangerous, right? Thanks, everyone. And so what you want to do is that you want to make sure that you're curating your content, because if people feel that you're not safe, okay, like if they read your copy and they don't feel safe, it's like walking into a dangerous jungle doing business with you. So marketing and sales is all about creating a certain experience. So I'm gonna come off the slide for a second. And I feel it's really important for me to give you a distinction on what is marketing and what is not marketing. A lot of people talk about marketing and what they're talking about is advertising. That's not marketing, okay? So I'm gonna describe it like this. If you ever watch a movie about, like, say, snipers, military snipers, like the guy that shoots long distance, okay? That is, Sam, I'm gonna give you a much better definition of what marketing actually is, okay? So in movies, the snipers always by themselves. They're always like up in a building or like on a hill and they're taking shots by themselves. That's not actually how it works in real life. In real life, the sniper always has a partner, and the partner is called the spotter. And the spotter is the person who basically tells the guy with the gun, and he says, okay, you need to aim 3 degrees down, right? 12 degrees to the right, taking into account the fact that the wind is coming 12 knots from right to left, and we're on a downhill slope. That is marketing's job. Marketing's job is to tell you where the market is for the salesperson to be able to go and close the deal. So PR is the bullet. Public relations and the copy that they write is the bullet that comes out of the gun. Branding is the color of the bullet shell, so that when they hit the target and they find it, they know exactly who killed them. Advertising is the sound of the gun when it goes off, so that everyone is looking to find out what the heck that was. And sales is only the person that pulls the trigger. When you're talking about marketing, it's about knowing what your market wants. And when you're talking about advertising, it's about what you say to them. If that makes sense, type yes. If that makes sense, type yes. Thank you. The reason I'm saying this is most people do this. They basically close their eyes and then they go, and they spend money on Facebook, and they wonder why they're not making any money. They're not making any money because their eyes are closed, because their marketing team hasn't done any research, and then their PR team isn't curating the image that they want to create. So you want to curate your content because you want to create a sense of safety. Your social media presence determines that. And the reason that I really want you to get this is whether you're a traditional business or a digital business, you want your image to be curated. You want it to be clean so that when people look at you, your image is crafted. They see a narrative. They see a feeling of you and a consistency. What we don't want is inconsistency. So about what you have in your social media page. And we'll talk about that why, especially later. But if you have pictures of you like drinking, or you have pictures of you like partying, or things that you did that you didn't wish that people knew about, like back in the day, it's really important for you to make sure that you craft your image actively, and that you're actually like taking out the weeds so that you have a beautiful experience when your audience hits you. So that's the first lesson, right? Copy creates value. Make sure that you are actually creating copy and content that is the way that you want people to experience your value. Okay? If that's cool, if this has been a cool lesson, type cool in the chat. COOL in the chat. Thank you. Which brings me to my next point. Education is fundamental. Okay, now it doesn't necessarily, I love writing it like this, but it doesn't necessarily mean like it's a joy. I personally love it. I personally love educating, but I want to talk about it because when a lot of people talk about education, what they're actually talking about is educating themselves and what they consume. The fact of the matter is that from a marketing, advertising, and PR standpoint, you must educate them. You become the educator, right? You're the person who is informing the audience why it is so important for you to be the person that they talk to. Education is fundamental in you actually getting your market out there. Otherwise, things break down completely. I'm glad you're here too, Vanita. So educate on what? Now, a lot of people, they talk about problem, they talk about solution, and the question is like, what do you actually educate on? Do you educate on the problem or do you educate on the solution? You do not talk about the solution. A lot of people love to talk about their product, okay, and their service and how they help their clients and all of that stuff. If you are guilty of that on social media, type me, M-E in the chat. If you're guilty about talking about your product and your service, type me on social media. Or sorry, type me in the chat. Thank you, Natarajan. I'll tell you this, almost everybody does it. Don't lie, okay? Don't lie. There's no point in lying. I did it too. I didn't know any better. Okay, thanks for admitting it. And the fact is, like, what it actually boils down to is that, you know, ultimately, the solution is pointless. And I'll tell you why in a second, okay? Don't freak out, okay? Here's where we get into one of the core principles that I really want you to understand, okay? People buy into problems and they pay for the solution. If you have not educated them on their problem, they don't want to pay for the solution. Nobody wants to know what the lawnmower does, like, and how the lawnmower works. What they want to know is what the problem is with having really tall grass. You can't sell a lawnmower to someone until they are actually irritated by the fact that they have really long grass. Okay, so if you want to create transactions with them, it's really important that you actually understand you've got to like have people buy into the problem and pay for the solution. So if you, for instance, tell them about how if you don't take care of the long grass, you're going to get snakes, and if snakes come, they're going to potentially come into your house, and you don't want to like suddenly have a snake in your toilet when you sit down to go to the washroom, which by the way happens in Malaysia in certain places, right? That's a very dangerous situation. That might spark somebody to actually be willing to do it. Or, for instance, if your grass grows too tall, you may get rats. If you get rats, they'll come in the house. If rats come in the house, you may not know that they're nesting, and they may produce more rats, and more rats will actually create the hantavirus. You're actually going to get sick, and so on and so forth. You want people to buy into the problems. And then when you offer them like, hey, if I could give you a really easy way to get rid of the tall grass where the rats and the snakes would grow, are you interested? The person's going to be like, yes, I want, take my money. So people buy into problems and they pay for solutions. There's no point in talking about the solution before people actually tell you, yes, I agree with the problem. And this is where marketing is so important. Marketing needs to identify what are the problems that people are listening for, not just complaining about. Like you might complain, my pen doesn't write. Who cares, right? The fact of the matter is your pen not writing doesn't matter that much to you. Instead, what you have to actually be saying is, do you really want to get into that conversation with a contract and not have the pen to sign the deal with? Of course not. You know, can you imagine you spend months working on a client, building them up, getting to the point where you're ready to sign your multi-million-dollar deal, and you walk in and you have a pen that doesn't write? Is that really what you want? Of course not. Now they bought into the problem. All it's going to cost you is $100 to have this pen, which is not just a normal pen. It's also going to be very impressive, and it's going to make the customer feel like they can trust you further. Are you willing to buy? And this is exactly the core principle. Crafting rapport with a customer is important. Yes, Kabir, but there's actually more to it than that. It's having them be educated on the problem they didn't even know they had. And that's a really important point that a lot of people get stuck on. I'll give you an example. You want to be a pain reliever. You don't necessarily want to be the person that is telling them the solution. So as an example, this is a picture of a dentist, right? If you go to a dentist, you don't care how they make your pain go away. Like, you don't care what the process is going to be. You don't, if you have a pain in your, like my two of my partners within a month of each other, they had wisdom tooth issues. One of my partners was in India with me. We were actually in Delhi at the time. Okay. No, sorry. We were in Lucknow at the time. And the pain came on and we had to fly back on an overnight flight. So he wouldn't take painkillers to make sure that they would still work when he got onto the plane. When he got to KL, the second he landed on KL, he drove straight to a dentist and he said, deal with it. I don't care. And they said, we're going to extract it. He said, I don't care. Deal with it. Take the pain away. He didn't care if they hit him with a hammer. He didn't care if they pulled him out with pliers. He didn't care. He just wanted the pain gone once and for all. You want your business to come across that way. People want pain relief. Okay? People want pain relief. But if they don't know they have the pain, how can they look for the pain relief? Like, if you don't know that what aspirin is for instance, like, you don't care about aspirin until you have a headache. You don't care about a dentist until you need the cleaning. You don't care about a chiropractor until your back hurts. And then suddenly people start looking for the solutions. So you want to be the person that's been communicating the pain that they have in a way that they understand so that they come to you. If this is good, type good in the chat. If this is good information, type good in the chat. Thank you very much. Thank you, Murali. Thank you, Lila. Thank you, Del. Thank you, Murugan. Thank you, Sam. If you can just do this, by the way, if you can do this one principle, becoming a pain reliever, and putting it together with the idea of copy creates value, imagine if the key thing you educate on is on the problems that they have, and you're the person that's educating them on that, and then suddenly they ask you, how did you solve it? And that's actually how you get there, which brings me to my next point. People buy people, not products. So I talked about the PVP concept, right? The PVP approach. People buy people, not products. I don't care what your business is, they will buy a person. They will buy a relationship with the person. They will not buy like the product itself or the service itself. They want to know who is the person that's going to be providing them the product or service. So as an example, this is going to sound really strange, but a toothbrush, okay? A toothbrush is a completely neutral thing. If you walk into a grocery store, you might grab any toothbrush at all. You won't even think about it, right? But you're more likely, if you have two toothbrushes in front of you, to look for the one your dentist told you to choose, because you have a relationship with the person who recommended it. Because people buy people, not products. So for those of you who typed S in the chat, Vinta, if you have a question, just type it in the chat. Yes, Kabir. Can I ask you to mute if you are speaking and you're not there?
Everybody should keep quiet and solve. When the question is no
yeah, Nitya Kumari, can you please mute yourself? Thank you. Okay, so the idea is that people buy people, not products. The product itself, it doesn't matter how good your product is if they don't trust it, right? So if you have two toothbrushes, right? Two toothbrushes may be the same. They may be the same basic experience, right? But if your dentist said, this is the one that I use myself, you're more likely to choose that one. Another example, let's say you have to choose between two automobiles, right? One automobile is a Toyota and one automobile is, let's say, a Mercedes, okay? Now you may be looking at them and saying like, okay, I can't afford the Mercedes, but I really want the Toyota. The first thing that will pop into your head is, what is the experience of the person that I'm going to become driving a Mercedes versus driving a Toyota? Which one do I want to be? And this is a little abstract, but I really want you to get this. People and the relationship that people have with the person is very important. In your entire organization, there is a human being behind it. It doesn't matter if you're the boss or you're the receptionist or you're the salesperson or whatever. It doesn't matter. The most important thing is that the people actually represent you and the product, and your customers will choose the person that they like over the person that is neutral to them. If they have a choice between someone they like and someone they don't know, they're going to choose the person that they like. And that's a really important distinction, especially for small businesses. So when I talked about curating your image, when I talked about making sure that you build your garden, what do you want them to know about you? Don't just be the product. Don't just be the person, the thing inside the box. What do you want them to know about you? What values do you want them to understand about you? What problems do you want them to know that you're solving? What do you want them to understand about you? Because you represent your product. On social media, let's say that you represent a third-party product. Let's just say that you're a distributor for like a machine or a network marketing product or whatever. It doesn't matter. People aren't buying that. It doesn't matter how good your supplement is. It doesn't matter how good your water filter is. It doesn't matter how good any of that stuff is. They're going to look for you and they're going to check in on you, on your stuff, because you're the person that's sitting in front of them, whether it's through Zoom or otherwise. Look, some of you have probably already started looking on my Facebook page. You probably started already looking onto my Instagram page and starting to like do some background on me because you just want to know who I am. People want to look you up. They want to know you because people buy people. So the question is, what do you want them to know about you? And when you think about it, that suddenly changes how you actually relate to the content, because you are the first point of contact with your product. You're the first point. You don't want them to be scared of you. You want them to trust you. You want them to have a sense of, oh, this guy's on my side or this woman's on my side. They have my back. They're going to protect me. If I work with them, I can trust them. If that makes sense, type makes sense in the chat. If that makes sense, type makes sense in the chat. People buy because they trust you. Yes, your image is associated with your product. Yes, Sam, exactly. How do you build trust on the product? Sorry, I missed that question. Let me go back up. How to build trust of the product among customers. What is your copy? Does your copy create trust? Are you consistent in your messaging? Are you consistent in educating on the problem? Here's one of this, it's a secret. It's not in, it wasn't actually intended for me to do this, but if you're able to tell another person about their problems, right, better than they can describe it, they will immediately trust you. And so doing the market research to allow you to speak to them in their language in the way that they want, right, in a way that they can relate to, in a way that they understand better than they can do it, immediately creates trust in you. And that's really important. So I really, really want to emphasize that. Like if you're the first point of contact and you're able to curate your image so that people understand that, and you're able to give them the problems, you're educating them, and suddenly they're going to build trust in you and they're going to want to work with you. You are the face. Whether they ever meet you or not, you are the face. So you want to make sure you're giving them the image of what matters for you and by you. Okay? All right. Lesson number 4. This is my last lesson that I'm going to teach you before we get to Q&A. The sale happens after they bought. Okay, now that sounds insane, right? But the sale actually happens after they bought the product, not before they bought the product. And so I'm going to define a sale for you because a lot of people get really confused. No, Ashutosh, you do not want to become a solution provider. You want to become a pain reliever. Okay? You want to become a pain reliever, Ashutosh. If you are a solution provider, people don't want you. People don't want to be fixed. People don't want to fix things. They want to be fixed. They want someone who will fix them, who will take their pain away, like the dentist. Okay? Instead, what you want to do is that you want to be the person that they think of as the pain relief. And that happens through your dialogue, through your narrative, how you communicate it. Yes, you want to be a facilitator of pain relief, not the solution. How you do what you do, they don't care, as long as they feel better at the end of it. I hope that makes sense, Ashutosh. Okay? And that, like to Tom Mill's point, yes, you want to be a facilitator of pain relief. You want to be the person with the needle of the pain relief, not the person that's explaining the whole process. That doesn't matter. Okay? I just want to be clear about that. So the sale happens after they bought. So I want to talk about a sale. The first sale you make with somebody is time. Okay, the first sale is time. Right now, right, there are 73 of you on here with me. We are having a conversation. Do any of you work for free? If you work for free, right, if you work for free, I want you to type 1 in the chat. 1, the number 1. If you work for free, you don't get paid for what you do. If you work and you collect money for your time, I want you to write 9, the number 9 in your chat. Okay, meaning that you transact. Got it. Thanks. So you are worth something. So the fact that we're exchanging minutes, even minutes, means that we're exchanging. We're in transaction. Okay, so the first sale is done. The second sale, the upsale happens, the part where money transacts later. So the first sale is time. After that, the money transaction, the exchange that occurs when the money changes hands, that happens after. But the sale that most of you are thinking about when it comes to money happens after they bought, because you buy when you make the decision, and the decision is made well before you ever make the transaction of money. If that is enlightening, type wow in the chat. If what I just shared with you about sale is enlightening, type WOW in the chat. Thank you, Ratna. Thank you. Thank you. Sure. So, Dr. Marinder, what I'm basically saying is this. The sale is exchange. A sale by its very nature is only exchange. That's it. Whether you're exchanging time or you're exchanging money or you're exchanging goods. Let's say I trade one pen for another pen. That was a sale. Okay? I just want to be very clear about that. The distinction here is, Manjulata, can you please mute yourself? Manjulata, can you please mute yourself? Bharati, can you mute them, please?
Yeah, I'll do
it. Just click on the name Bharati and mute.
Yeah, I'm clicking. Which name it is?
Manjulata.
Okay.
Thank you. Okay. So what ends up happening is that the point of exchange is when the sale happens. Okay. So the first transaction is time, because the second someone is willing to listen to you, you have already started a transaction. When you translate, when your next transaction would be money. So after you've transacted the time where they're willing to listen to you about the problem, or they're willing to listen to you about your solution you have for their problem, the pain relief, right? Then the next step is that you transact money in exchange for the product or service. Time turns to money, yes, Kabir, in a sense. And that is actually depending on how good your upsell is. So the sale happens after they bought, because people will buy the second that they make a decision. And a decision is made well before money exchanges hands. How many of you have known, for instance, you meet someone and you're like, I'm going to buy from this person? Have any of you ever had that experience? Like, you know what you want, but the minute you meet the person, you decide, I'm going to buy from this person. If you have, type ME in the chat. You've ever had that experience? Type ME in the chat. Thank you. That's exactly my point. You have decided beforehand. The sale is simply just the mechanical part of the transaction and the follow-up. You purchased, you made the purchase before the sale ever happens. And so I want to talk about that because this is a really important distinction. People decide to buy upfront. Someone knows whether or not they want something before they even start. Like upfront, you decide whether you're going to buy it or not. The finish line is crossed the second you start the race. The only difference is, are they buying from you or are they going to buy from someone else? But a person has decided upfront. And this is what I really want you to get. Because if you take the time to actually craft your copy, if you take the time to really think about what values you create, if you take the time to educate on the problem and how you can relieve their pain, they're going to want you to be the person that solves their problems for them. And that's the key. That's the future of how you are going to position yourself to ride out the storm of COVID-19. By understanding that everything you do is to support them to trust you before they're ready to transact money, so that they are willing to give you the money when they're ready to actually give it to you. It's a very important distinction, and I really want you to get that. So I'm going to give you this, 8:33:15. You have 8 seconds. Okay, on social media, it's 3 seconds. You have 3, so technically it's 3:8:33, but whatever. 8 seconds to catch someone's attention. So when you're scrolling through Facebook, you probably run and you don't even think about it, right? You just skip all kinds of stuff. And then there's the one that catches your attention. If you've ever had that experience before, type yes in the chat. If you've ever had the experience where you scroll through Facebook and you ignore everything and then suddenly you're like, that one. That's exactly my point, 8 seconds. Now, you won't click on read more if the first little bit doesn't catch your eye. 8 seconds. Sorry, let me read this. So Vinita said, you mean to say that the transaction actually happens before the actual exchange of money? Yes. First, you have to build a rapport, pain healer, then you're halfway there. Yes. And then if you have curated your image, people will know whether to trust you and you're the person that they want to give the money to. Okay, I hope that that answers your question, Benita. If it does, type yes in the chat. Okay, so you have 8 seconds to catch their attention. If you can do the first 8 seconds well, the next 30 seconds, they will pay attention. After the next 30 seconds, you'll keep their attention for 3 minutes. If you can keep their attention for 3 minutes, they'll give you 15 minutes. If you can give that, if they're willing to give you 15 minutes, they're going to be willing to trade money with you. So your job is to make the first 8 seconds, 30 seconds, 3 minutes, and 15 minutes count. That's the key to the future of sales. Keeping attention, because there are so many things to distract people right now. Your job is to keep their attention. Correct. And once you have their attention, to keep it. Vinita, it's not a placebo. You're going to really solve their problem. They just don't care about how you solve the problem. What they care about is that you understand my problem. If you didn't understand my problem, how are you going to solve it? And so your image, the values that you communicate, all of those things that you've actually put out there all matter, because when they look for you for the first like 8 seconds, when they see you, they're going to be like, hey, that's me. Or yes, that's how I feel. Then they're going to read about it. Then they're going to want to look out more for you and get more in contact with you. Everything you do is designed for them to exchange more and more time with you until they're ready to exchange more and more money with you. That's the future of sales and marketing, not the other way around. So I hope that you're all getting value from this. If you're getting value from this, type value in the chat. If you're getting attention, Sam, and you're not actually transacting, there's a pretty good chance that you have not actually identified their real problem. We'll get into that in the Q&A session. Ask it again when I get to the Q&A, Sam. Okay, ask it again. So I really want to emphasize 8 seconds, 30 seconds, 3 minutes, 15 minutes. Your job is to create the ability to extend the amount of time somebody is willing to read your content and to stay with you on videos, to stay with you in a meeting. If you can't keep somebody's attention for 8 seconds, they're not going to stay with you until you're done with your presentation. You've got to make sure that you can layer it out. If this is cool, type cool in the chat. What role does cost play in sales? Every role. Ask that one again, Swapnil, and I'll answer it later. Okay, ask it when I get to the Q&A. Okay, here is my summary of all of the lessons. Now is the key aha. Now is the best time to fail because everyone is failing. And because everyone is failing, you have the best chance to catch up because nobody knows what they're doing anyway. Yay! Failure. Failure is one of the best things that you can do because failure gives you an opportunity to learn. If you're doing everything right, up front, you're not pushing your limits. If you're always creating success, it means you literally are not ever going to learn because you've never seen how far you can take it. So now is the best time to fail. You've got to be willing to push yourself because everyone is failing anyway, so you can catch up. Don't worry, I'll give you a time to snap a picture of it, no problem. I can see some of you pulling out your cameras. It's cool, I got it, okay? The first one, copy communicates value. Make sure that you are communicating the values that you want through the content that you're putting out there. Whether it's video or ads, whether it's social media on LinkedIn, Twitter, it doesn't matter. Even if it's a TikTok and you're dancing or whatever on TikTok, make sure that you're dancing and you're communicating the value that you want. For instance, don't dance to a song that's going to damage your image. You want to make sure that you're getting it out there. Education is fundamental. You must educate the market. You have to explain to them what their pain is in a way that they can say, oh, I didn't know that was my pain. I didn't know that was my issue. I didn't know I needed that. So as an example, if you talk about meditation, no one cares. Everybody's like, I've heard of meditation. Of course, I just sit down. That's it. They're not going to want to transact with you. They're not going to want to learn from you. But if you can actually ask them pain points, like for instance, do you ever find yourself getting angry? Have you ever seen yourself getting to a point where like you'll be really happy and then suddenly really sad? You have mood swings. You know, have you ever had those situations where like you find yourself getting frustrated and you can't seem to compose yourself? That you get to a point where no matter what you do, there's always this part of you that has like a voice inside your head that's talking. What if I could teach you in 15 minutes how to take all of that stress and problem away and give you the ability to stay centered and to stay connected at all times? Would you be interested in doing that? And people will be like, yeah. Now you have to educate them on the pain, on the frustration, on what it costs them to have the anger, to have the impulse, to have all that stuff. So that's what I'm actually getting to. You've got to actually be able to educate them on the problem, not on the solution. People don't care about meditation. If I talk to you about meditation, you just sit. The Sanskrit word for meditation is sitting. I'm sitting now. That doesn't mean I'm meditating, right? Nobody's going to buy sitting because everybody can get sitting for free. But if you talk about mindfulness, people will be like, oh, mindfulness, what does that mean? I want, right? But you've got to give them the problem, because even the word mindfulness by itself means nothing. Okay, copy creates value. Going back to the question I was asked, the idea of copy creates value is you want to make sure that your copy communicates what you stand for, communicates the value that you bring, so that you can increase trust. So an example is, for instance, let's say that you're doing supplements. You don't want to be talking about the supplement. You want to be talking about health. You want to be talking about quality of life. You want to be talking about the value that your product actually brings, not the product itself. The product is useless. Okay, so copy communicates value. You want to make sure that you're communicating your value through the copy, the stuff that you actually write. Okay, so number 3, people buy people, not products. You are the face of your product or service. You want them to connect with you. Make sure that you have the image that they want. Make sure that you are creating the experience that they are looking for. Make sure that people are buying you first, because they're going to connect with something first. And people are more likely to, psychologically, people are more likely to look for someone who looks like them, sounds like them, and has similar experiences to them versus someone else. So that's the first thing that creates trust. But ironically, people are more likely to be entranced by the idea of buying something foreign. So like in India, you're more likely to want to buy something that came from Europe than something that came from India. Because you're going to be like, whatever, I can get Indian stuff anywhere, right? But somebody in Europe or the United States, they're like, what is from India? Ooh, it's so exotic, right? And so like, if you come in and you're like, I will tell you all about it. You know, you have your bindi and everything, and you're standing up there and you're talking to them and you're telling them about how it's a traditional Indian like delicacy or anything like that. And you describe how a sari is put on and the problem with normal clothes versus a sari, and how a sari breathes and how much more comfortable it is and all of this stuff, right? People will be like, oh, I want. And they're going to connect with you as a person. They're not going to connect if they can't see themselves in it. I have a principle that I teach called HR stories, highly relatable stories. If you can't craft a highly relatable story, people can't connect with it. So people buy people, and they want to see themselves in the person that they're buying from. Okay, and that's a really important thing. The product itself doesn't matter. Like a sari doesn't matter. They can buy a sari anywhere. You know what I mean? It's fabric. Technically speaking, you can buy any fabric and make it a sari. Technically, it may not be as beautiful as, say, the saris from Chennai. It may not be as beautiful as like the ones that you would wear, but it doesn't change the fact that it can be made, right? And so people want to connect with the people who are actually creating it, okay? Which brings me to point number 4. The sale happens after they already bought. So if you want to take a picture, now is the time to take the picture. The sale happens after they bought. They have made the decision up front whether or not they're going to buy. The only question is, are they buying from you or are they buying from someone else? The transaction of the money happens later, because you remember the first transaction is time. So once they've already given you the time to listen, done. You're already on. This is the entire future of sales. If you are doing sales by doing just pure advertising, you're going to fail. People are going to be less likely. I'm going to leave you with this final thought. People are going to be less likely to transact with things they don't know, and more likely to transact with things they do know. The world will get smaller, not bigger, because of the COVID-19 disease. People are going to have access to you in ways they have never had access before. I am sitting in my guest room right now in Kuala Lumpur, Malaysia, speaking to 70 of you, okay? And the world is small. I am instantly connecting with you. It's not like there's a delay. I don't even have to fly to you. So the fact of the matter is, if you want to do business with people in Brazil, you can. It's just setting up a time. And they are going to do their research. They are going to be connecting with you in Zoom. They're going to be connecting with you on Skype. They're going to be connecting with you through any number of different things. The world is smaller than it's ever been. And so you want to be able to take advantage of that situation by curating your value, by curating the education process, by making sure that you are the person that people represent or recognize as the pain reliever, and you want them to transact with you before they ever transact money. You want them to be giving you their time first. So with that, thank you very much, ladies and gentlemen. Questions? If you got value from this, type value in the chat. If you got value from this, type value in the chat. Bharati, I hope you are happy with that.
Bro. Fantastic. And
Thank
I
you.
believe it's just maybe 30 to 40 minutes and added a great value to the participants. And I would say it's just you are getting an essence of what about this coaching. I would say, and I had done this program before, and it's unbelievable. And guys, I make sure that maybe soon we'll bring that program to India as well, by God's willing. It's
Thank you.
just
Thank
a
you.
trial. And fantastic, bro. Thank you so much. And let's open for question and session, QA session. Maybe.
Okay, so I
Yeah, bro.
see one question from Swapnil Gupta. What role does cost play in sale? Okay, so I'm going to give you this point, Swapnil, in a very different way. Huh? I'll be very clear. So for all of you who are like managers or who manage like stuff, I'm going to talk about sales through a couple of different things. Most people, when they weigh cost on sales, they're talking about the actual cost of the transaction, right? So I look at cost of sales in terms of time. How much time does it take you to transact? Like, does it take you a day? Does it take you, like, for instance, Bharati does software development, right? The
Yeah.
cost of production is not in the cost of sales. The cost of sales starts getting measured from the minute he begins the business development. And then how long it takes from the contact point of a lead all the way to the close point. Because all those hours that Bharati is spending talking to that customer, he's not programming. He's not actually doing the thing that generates the actual revenue for him. And so the cost of time is the thing that you actually weigh in sales, right? Not conversion rate. What's the point in conversion rate? If Bharati makes one sale a year, it may be enough. But if one sale a year doesn't really work, then the cost is actually what's prohibitive. So cost in sales comes up in terms of time. How long does it take you to create the transaction? Now, with everything that I told you about value, about curating your image, about everything, right? If you've already been transacting long before the person has told you, I want to buy, because you've been educating them on the problem, and then suddenly they come to you and they say, I want, your cost of sale should be shorter. You should be able to move to the closing, to the point where you're in the second, third, fourth, fifth level of exchange. So you've got to actually work the ground like a gardener, so that when you plant the seed, right, it's just putting it into the soft soil instead of having to work the ground. I hope that makes sense. So cost of sale happens in time. Advertising, marketing is, I'm going to talk about this like point. Marketing is 80% research and 20% insight, 0% advertising. Okay? Advertising happens after marketing tells you what to say. And then you advertise. Okay? So advertising and PR go together. Okay? Advertising and PR go together. So when you advertise, your job, what you're basically doing is you're taking a net, like a net into the ocean, and you're throwing it over where you know there is a school of fish. What most people do with advertising is they just throw a string, like, you know, they're like, and they wait. Instead of actually saying like, fish are there. Okay, and then throw the net at where the fish are. So you want to spend your money in advertising where you know the pool is. Okay, where you know it's going to hit. If you know the problems, if you've done your market research to understand the problem that people have, and you can explain it in a way that makes sense to them, now your advertisement will work. Okay? Because you're not going to tell them what the solution is. People don't want the solution. It doesn't, like, even if Bharati talks about my coaching, what's the point? Who cares? They don't care about coaching. They want to know what problem it's going to take away. You get what I mean? So when I run an advertisement, if I tell you, do you want to save time? Do you want to save money? Do you want less headaches? And do you want your life to go faster? Yes. Okay. All it costs you is this, because you've spoken to them in the problem that makes sense. So your advertising is actually where you communicate the problem at a wider scale to bring the leads in. Then the speed is where the cost comes in. I hope that answers your question. No, Sam, identifying the problem is marketing. Communicating the problem is advertising. Identifying the problem is marketing. Communicating the problem is, so I'm going to talk about marketing and sales in a different way to help you. Your eyes, your ears, your skin, your nose, and your taste buds is marketing. They are your senses. Sales is your hands. They bring the product to you so you can eat it, so you can touch it, so you can taste it. Okay? So your marketing is your senses. They're the ones that tell you what is happening around you. Your senses alone don't get into action. Sales picks up the cup and says, I am thirsty, and then brings it to your mouth to drink it. Advertising says, literally says out loud, I am going to grab this cup now, and then goes out and reaches for it. Okay, finance is your central nervous system because they're the ones that know what's going on in all the different limbs. Okay, so Sam, I just want to clarify. Marketing is identifying what the problems are. PR is telling you what to say to the problem. Advertising is making sure that it is yelled loud enough to the people who care. So when you throw the net, sales can simply collect the fish. I hope that answers your question. Okay, there was a question that came up a while back. Hang on 1 second. Communicating, the problem is advertising. Yes, correct, Sam. That is correct. I have not written a book by you. Sorry, I have not written a book, Nita. I am actually going to write one. I'm actually going to write 2 books. One is The Sacred Science of Wealth, and the other one is The 12 Hidden Laws of Money. So I will share with you about those later, but they're not written yet.
Maybe there is another question. Dear
Yeah.
sir, thinking of product, which is
Yeah.
totally how should I start? Sir, kindly explain the steps how I should start.
Product ideation. Yeah.
First those.
I created a whole course on this. Okay, it's like 10 videos on just product ideation. Because like people are like, I want to start. Do you know what they do? They go to sleep. So they're like, oh, I really want to start a business. And then they're like Netflix, right? Because like most people never actually get started. They talk about starting, but they never start. Okay, here's the first step. What problem are you going to solve? If you're not solving a problem, don't bother. I'm just going to say that. There's no point in doing anything else, nothing else, if you don't know what problem you're going to solve. So like, I really want, like, for instance, if you're just like, let's say for pure ego's sake, right? I'm going to be a motivational speaker. Okay. What problem are you solving? People's motivation, nonsense la. What is the actual problem that you're going to communicate people didn't know they had that you can fix? So the first step in creating any product of any kind is, what is the problem you are going to solve? Ideally, what problem are you solving no one else is solving? What is the problem you are solving that no one else is solving? That's the first step. The second step is, does the market want it? Just because the problem exists doesn't mean the market wants it. So for instance, you can come up with a self-tooth extraction kit. They have it. It's called a wrench. You put a wrench in your mouth and you can pull your own tooth out. But the market won't pay for it, because they want a dentist to give them all of the jabs and everything to take the pain away. Okay, so first thing you do is you identify a problem that no one else is solving. Then the second question you ask is, does the market want it? Then the third thing is the market big enough for it to be a business? Like if 5 people want it in the entire world, it's probably not a market unless they're willing to pay $5 million each. You know what I mean? So you want to make sure that the market is big enough. And then at the end, can you even produce the product that you've identified? If you can't do those things, then it's pointless. So what problem do you solve that nobody else is solving, right? Like, does the market actually want it? Is the market big enough to actually justify it? Okay. And then can you even produce it? If you can do those things, then you can do it. I hope that answers your question, Ashutosh. Okay, what else?
Right. Yeah, bro. Any more questions?
Yeah, please ask your questions. I'm happy to kind of like share with you more if you want. If you don't ask me anything, I'm just going to talk about anything.
Bro, I just want to know how you think about the collaboration in sales, because people feel it's like about competition.
Yeah.
Yeah, I run an IT company. Even
right.
I hesitate a lot to connect with another IT company and develop, maybe collaborate and sell the product, because I have a kind of an hesitation whether he may become my competitor. So
yeah.
Is that the fact, or how I can proceed with that? Maybe if I start from my end.
Interesting question. Okay. I would say this. So there's 2 ways I would look at this. Okay, Bharati, and this is something that I hope everybody kind of like gets. Do you believe you will only ever make one product, Bharati?
No.
Exactly. So even if they steal it, they're stealing the old one. Do you get what I mean?
Yeah.
What you bring to the table is far greater than anything that they could steal as your competitor. If they are so small and so incapable that they need to compete with you on the oldest stuff you have, congratulations, you've already won. Okay, that's the first thing on competition. You are going to be so much better and so much greater than whatever they're willing to steal or whatever they're willing to work on. Okay, that's the first thing. Why collaboration? Whether to do collaboration or not. Okay, here's what I would actually say. Have contracts.
Yeah.
very clearly written contracts with consequences for violating them.
Yeah.
Okay, in both directions, so they feel safe too. Okay, so like if you would say like if I, Bharathiraj, right, violate this contract, here's the penalty. If you violate the contract, here's the penalty, in both directions. So it's not one way, right? That's one thing.
Yeah.
The second thing I would say is this: don't get into a partnership with someone until you have like tasted. It's like marriage. You don't get married to somebody you meet like 1 second later. You want to actually know whether or not you can like kind of make it work over time. Okay, so like with business, test small agreements and allow the small agreements to increase over time. So for instance, like don't get into a JV with somebody until you actually know that you can work with them. Don't get into something like, don't work with them in sales if they're not even willing to be a referral partner with you. So start with referral, then from referral, then get into collaboration, then from collaboration, get into joint venture. Then from joint venture, you can create companies and mergers and things like that. Don't merge, by the way.
Wow.
Never do a merger. Mergers are bad companies coming together. So mergers are always two really bad companies making one really, really big bad company. Acquisitions are actually more logical. But I would say, look, from a collaboration standpoint, test the water first. Like you don't just jump straight into the water thinking that it's warm. It might be freezing cold, you know? So little by little over time. I hope that answers the question. Perfect. But if they're honestly, like, look, anybody who's willing to steal from me, anybody who's willing to steal my customers or anything, they're stealing last year's product, man. Yeah. You know, next year I'm going to be so much more ahead of that, like whatever. If the best you can do is to copy my old stuff, that's like wearing my old clothes. You want it, take it, I give it to you anyway.
Perfect. And we got another question from Maninder Gaur. Yeah. How can we market sense of sincerity and belonging among employees in a struggling organization?
Got it. Good question. So, Dr. Maninder, are you talking about for customers or are you talking about for your own organization? I think that would be really helpful to know. But I'll answer the question anyway. I would actually say this: what do the staff own? If the staff don't own anything, if all they are is robots, they will behave like robots. And so if instead you create a sense of ownership, okay, in regards to employees, okay, so create a sense of ownership. Ownership actually happens on 3 levels from what my studies have actually shown me. The first level of ownership is inclusion. Do they believe that they are a part of the community that is being built within the organization? If they don't believe that, then they're just going to be someone who shows up and leaves, okay? So you want to create a sense of community. You can do that through rituals. You can do that through different processes. Like in Money and You, what I feel like saying as an example is a ritual that creates ownership. The second thing is that people don't respond as much to money as they respond to recognition. So money should be a process that creates recognition. So when people feel that things are unstable, or when people feel that things are kind of like going awry, they need to have recognition of their contribution so that they feel a greater sense of security. If they feel like they don't respect me, I'm the first one out the door, they're gonna run away. And so instead what you wanna do is you wanna spend as much time with recognition and acknowledgement as possible. And then the third thing is responsibility. What are you giving them responsibility to create? If you're able to actually give them a sense of responsibility, they have that sense of community, they have that sense of recognition, and they have a sense of responsibility. All 3 of those things will immediately change their remuneration, their ability to generate money for themselves and the company, because they're going to be like vested into the future of the company. They're going to invest themselves into it. Even better if you tell them how they can own some of the company. Like that's one of the best things. Like if you want to own some of the company, this is what you have to do. If you're willing to do it, congratulations. If not, never mind. I'll find another person who wants it. I hope that answers your question, Dr. Maninder. But that's what I would do. It's those 3 things: community, sense of recognition and acknowledgement, and then basically responsibility. Yeah. We do it in my company. My team is constantly creating solutions for me.
Great.
They come up with a million solutions I don't have. And when I feel stressed out, I will tell them I'm completely stressed out and I'm freaked out and I don't know how to do this. So when we got into lockdown, I straight up told them, we don't know how to make all the money for you. Can you help us figure out how to generate money? And they were like, okay.
True. And another question from Sam: what matters most post-marketing and sales for retention of the customers?
Good question. I would say you never stop the sales process. So one of the things that I do when I speak to a salesperson and I interview them is I ask them to draw a picture of the sales process. And if they draw a straight line, I won't hire them. I want it to be a circle. So I want, as soon as a transaction happens, that they go back into the process of re-educating the customer on the next sale that needs to happen. So you don't want to ever stop marketing and sales. Instead, you're always going to be translating your content and engagement into the transaction of time, not money. So are you communicating regularly enough to keep them engaged so that they are aware? You don't want customers, you want fans. Yes, Pallavi, your marketing and sales process do go hand in hand. Again, the sniper and the spotter. Can the sniper do sales by themselves? Of course they can. They can just pull the trigger and it's likely they're going to hit. But it's a lot easier to hit with the one bullet if you have another person who's supporting them to make sure that they're shooting at the right target. You know, or else they're going to hit the bodyguard and they're not going to hit the actual right person. You know, so I would say that, yeah, like you want to actually never stop the sales process. You want to constantly be engaging, and you really want fans. You want people talking about you without you having to make noise. And the only way that that happens is if you're constantly in communication with your customers. If you do one trend, like a really good example is like JW Marriott, okay, and like hotels. The top tier products are constantly communicating with you. JW Marriott, when the COVID-19 thing went in, they sent messages out to all of their members, like all the people that were part of like the Marriott Rewards program. They sent messages out telling them what they were doing in the hotels, what they could expect from their customer service, how things were going to go, whether or not like things were canceled, what they were preemptively planning to do with bookings, right? They were constantly engaging with them, and they still send messages out. Even now, even though they haven't been able to be in business for like a month plus, they're still sending messages out and they're still engaging with the customers, because it's when you finish this situation that you're going to buy. And which one are you going to buy? The one that's talking to you or the one that ignored you? Of course not, the one you trust.
We
So
got another question from Akash.
Yep.
Nowadays, due to competition, many people just see the rate of product no matter who is selling. How to click the sale with them when we are not able to compete the prices?
If you're competing on price, you already lost. So the only thing you have is economy of scale. It's as simple as that. If you are looking for price, if you're competing on price, it's economy of scale. You need to make sure you have the cheapest suppliers and all this. But let me ask you this question. Are your suppliers your customers? Are the people around you your customers? Have you gotten to such a point where you have saturated the market that literally the only way you can get new business is to compete on price? Or have you actually not done a good enough job of hitting that warm market that you already have access to? Most companies, they want cold market before the warm market's even transacting with them. And so the question is this: do you have enough of your immediate market around you transacting with you? Like the first sale, like I always like in Malaysia, right? Everybody's auntie and uncle is an insurance agent. Everyone, seriously, every single person in Malaysia has like got an insurance license. And the first people they go to, their cousins, their nephews, their aunties, their uncles, right? Like it's family. The first people you go to is family, and they saturate it, right? These people will transact with you because they almost have no choice. They trust you for no reason. It doesn't matter if you know what you're doing or not, but you build up track record. Once you build up track record, what you want is, instead of chasing somebody on price, to have someone come to you. So I'll give you a really simple example. If somebody was going to choose based on price anyway, they were never going to choose you to begin with. I'll be very honest. If someone was going to choose on price, they weren't going to choose you to begin with. But if you walk down the street, like look in Chennai, there are all these streets, right, where they have tons of sari shops. And I mean like tons of sari shops. Some of them are full and some of them are empty. Why? Because the ones that are full have done a great job of positioning themselves in the market. So if you're competing on price, you haven't positioned yourself in the market. McDonald's does not sell to everyone. McDonald's sells to a specific target market. McDonald's doesn't sell to literally everybody everywhere. They are not selling towards 5-star luxury restaurant buyers, right? Or towards 3 Michelin stars. They are selling to low cost, high speed, okay? The Chatwala guy is not going into, for instance, like Lamborghini dealership and selling masala tea in a cart. They are standing on the side of the road. They know exactly who they're selling to, right? So you need to know exactly who your market, this is where the marketing comes in. Who is your market? Who is your real market? If you're competing on price, most of the time why people compete on price is they don't know what else to compete on because they haven't actually built a brand. You've got to build a brand up. If you build a brand up and you spend the time on the messaging and you actually work your way out, you're going to fail early and fail often. Like one of the principles of my company is fail fast, fail early, fail often. Fail 3 times before your competitor has failed the first time because the cost is the lowest. You know, so I hope that answers the question. It's not about price, it's about position and making sure that people know you. If you have to choose, so it's a very simple question. If you have to choose between a box, like let's say that you go in and you have biscuits, and one biscuit is a brand you know, and the other biscuit is just a brown paper bag that's cheaper. You're going to choose the brand you know because you know it's safer. And that's essentially what I've been attempting to communicate with you. Copy communicates value. Education is fundamental. You want to educate them so that you are first to mind because the sale happens after they bought, not on the price. The price is just how much they're going to exchange again. I hope that makes sense. Like, look, when people buy online, they check Amazon, they check tons of different websites, they check, you know, CNET, they look and they do the research to make sure that they're buying the right one. You would rather have those customers because those customers keep buying from you. The ones who are only looking for price buy one time and never again. I hope that answers your question.
Perfect. And there's a question from Riaz.
Yeah, it's really long.
I have 20 years experience in media, including ad sales. I never believed in DSR, which I feel is too much pressure put upon sales staff. Hence, adopted a weekly sales report or weekly performance report to the staff in my PR firm, Mark, because the sales of different products and concepts require different strategies. So what is your expert opinion? Do you think daily sales report is necessary?
Excellent question, Riaz. I'm going to actually talk about this from a management perspective across the whole organization. And I think that this will address your question. Every department needs to have its clear goals, right? And it's up to you to decide exactly what the goals are. So the way that my organization works is that we have like a 45-day target that lays out the next 45 days. These are the things that we need to accomplish within 45 days. And then on a weekly basis on Monday, we say our goal by the end of the week is this. And then what we do is every day has to have a goal that ties back to that goal for the week. In sales, what I want to know is on track or off track. That's all they have to report. On track or off track. Whether you make the sale that day or you make that sale on Thursday, I don't care as long as you make the sale. On track or off track. The reason, Riaz, that I would say I want to have a daily goal, it doesn't necessarily have to be a daily sales KPI, but I want to have a daily goal that's met is I want to fix the problem the day it happens or the next day, not at the end of the week or at the end of the month. Okay? So it's not about stress. It's about actually having a simple system to know that everything is working. Like your spine, for instance, in your back, okay? Your spine has nerve endings. You don't want to find out 10 years after you started, you have a heart issue. You want your spine to tell your brain something is wrong right now, okay? I feel pain. Like imagine you put, like think about it like this. Your sales team is your hands. So your sales team decides, I'm going to stick my hands in the fire and I'm going to leave them there. Now suddenly they're burned. Your company can't make any money. No, you want on a daily basis for your eyes to be like, hey man, your hands are on, you're in the fire, let go. And then you can heal the situation. So I would say a daily sales report, yeah, I would recommend it, at least for them to be declaring their goals on track or off track, but make it simple enough that people don't hate doing it. I think what people hate doing is spending an hour on a sales report when it can be like 5 minutes. Like my whole team, right? Of like the entire company, our morning meeting is 30 minutes. 15 minutes for reporting, 15 minutes for goal setting. Bye.
Perfect. Yeah.
Our meetings went from 2 hours on Monday to like 1 hour. It's great. It's the best thing in the world because of all of our daily meetings.
Great.
And sorry, and I just want to add this one, Bharati, like for Riaz. When you have a problem at that meeting, you set the meeting to solve the problem. So when you know the goals are off, then you say, okay, 2 o'clock, let's have a meeting. Or 11 o'clock, let's have a meeting to actually talk about how we're going to fix that problem moving forward. So you have the opportunity to intervene before it's too late. Okay, sorry, that's it. Just wanted to say that.
Yeah.
I hope that I gave you value, Riaz.
Yeah. Sir, how we make the education is fundamental.
Okay, so here's the question. So look, when it comes to education, I would say you want to educate the market on their problems. So you have to do the research to know, and then you want to tell stories. People don't want to hear facts. Like I can't yell at you about what's wrong with you. You know what I mean? Like if I tell you what's wrong with you, you're gonna be like, you know, like middle finger and like run away, right? So what you actually want to do is tell stories that they can relate to. So learn how to like you want to learn copywriting. Honestly, the future for most business owners is you need to know some copywriting. And so like what you want to, like actually one of the things I would recommend is there's a guy by the name of Kenneth Yu. He's a Money and You graduate. His programs are incredible when it comes to copywriting, and I highly recommend them. Okay, they're fantastic. So what you want to do is you want to educate them in a way that has them relate to it. So you want to write stories. You want to actually, like, why do you think you watch commercials? You don't watch commercials that are boring. You watch commercials that are like mini movies, right? And Indians like the best. Like the Indian movies are like and Indian TV shows and Indian commercials, they're the best. Like you watch an Indian commercial and you're gonna cry. You know what I mean? Like it's like, oh, like right? Because they're like super dramatic, they're super emotional. If you're able to tell it like that, it's fun. And people want to watch more of it. Viral videos are viral because people want to share them. And so the idea is that you want, as you're educating the market and as you're having them relate to you as a person that's educating them, you want it to be fun. You want it to be enjoyable. You know, and then that's what I would say. You got to tell stories. Yeah.
Great. And another question, how to compete on market where many selling same product? What marketing should I do reach people?
I love this question. How many people are there in India? There's like 1 billion people in India. You don't need all of them. If you had 1% of the people in India as your customers, it's more than you could probably handle on a day-to-day basis anyway. So you don't need so what? If you believe your product is really, really good, if you believe that your product is really good and it really helps people, 1%, that's fine. You know what I mean? The question is, are the people who need it getting the product that they need? Whether they get it from you or they get it from someone else. The only question is, are you available for the people who want you? People buy from you. They don't, the product, remember, people buy people, not products. So are you positioning yourself so that people can transact with you? They know you're there. Ideal. If people don't know you're there, it doesn't matter, right? Because they're going to choose. Like network marketing is like that. In network, like when we train on network marketing, one of the things that I train first is like who do you want them to relate to? Your product is irrelevant. They can buy the product from anybody that's selling the product. You want them to think of you. And so you position yourself. Your product is simply how you solve their problem. Nobody cares about the product. They care that you are the person that can solve their, be a pain reliever. So ideally, I would say like position yourself as a pain reliever.
Right.
Who cares? Seriously, 1%. Even if you never leave India, it's 1% of 1 billion people. You know what I mean? Like seriously, you're 1/7 of the entire world's population. Forget the rest of the world. You don't need everybody to buy. McDonald's doesn't need everybody to buy from them. Not everyone eats McDonald's, and yet McDonald's makes lots and lots of money.
Yeah.
You know, so that's what I would say. I was like, look, so what if they're selling the same product? The first thing you have to do is actually position yourself in the market and who you want to talk to. Like two people selling the same product will sell to two different types of people. Figure out which one you're selling to.
Yeah. Great, bro. And I believe we just have 8 more minutes. After that,
Okay.
Zoom will close automatically. And
Okay.
before closing, I have one question. It's like when we make a sale. So like once I got the prospect, and what happened, I send him a proposal and everything is being done. So you have any tips for follow-up? I feel most of the salespeople are struggling. They have write a lot of questions to me as well in the forum. They're asking how I should learn it looks like a big thing to be learned, art to learn, follow up. The customer gets irritated. So what kind of tips you have for the salespeople in terms of follow-up?
So I mentioned this earlier when I think it was when the question was asked, like, what is the cost of sale? Okay. If you have no process flow, assume your follow-up is broken. So you make sure you actually have like a written step-by-step SOP, standard operating procedure for sales and follow-up. So you want to know, lead comes in, this is the first thing. This goes out, you know what I mean? Like it's the same as if you were running like a database. You know what I mean? Like it's the same as a database. Like you would have A, B, C, D, E, F, all the way every step, right? Or a CRM, okay? So what you want to do is have like your process flow. That's the first thing. So once a lead comes in, what's the process flow all the way to close? And then from close, the re-engagement of the cycle, okay? Because again, acquisition is way more expensive than retention, okay? So that's the first thing. So have a process flow. The second thing that I would also say is fortune is in the follow-up, okay? Be persistent, but don't be irritating.
Yeah.
So you follow up every day, twice a day for like 4 or 5 days. On the 4th or 5th day, give them a choice. Do you want me to stop? If you want me to stop, send me a message telling me to stop. Otherwise, I'm going to keep following up with you. Honestly, like just give them a choice. You know what I mean? And if they say like if they don't say anything, okay, I'm gonna take that as a keep going. Like maybe I'm just like I'm not ready yet. So no is no. Like I believe that no is no. Don't turn a no into a yes. Okay? Like don't turn a no into a yes. Convincing someone to be a yes creates a resentful buyer. But a no is not a no forever. So a lot of the job of the follow-up is to understand why they're not buying. Like to actually get to a point where they're telling you, I'm not buying because of this. Now is not a good time. Okay, when is a good time? Like just keep the contact in place. And so the number one tip I would have for follow-up is stay in contact. Maintain contact for as long as you can and as frequently as possible until they actually get it. I had one client that basically confirmed like 7 months after we talked to him.
Wow.
You know, and the thing is like, and it was just like once a week we would just send a message, hey, how's it going? That's it. Hey, how's it going? Haven't heard from you. Is everything okay? And then suddenly it was like, yeah. Oh, okay, cool. And then just chit chat a bit. Are you thinking about coming to this? No. Okay, I'll follow up with you next week. Yeah, sounds good. Okay. And then 7 months later, boom, $5,000. You know what I mean? So look, Riaz, I would say follow up as soon as you get the lead. As soon as you get the lead, follow up. That's where having the SOP in place is. If you're using like Active Campaign, for instance, the second that they come in, have an email go out, like ClickFunnels, like system, have a message straight go out, then follow up within 24 hours. Let them know you value them. Okay, as we digitize more and more, you want to automate as many of the systems as possible. If you're not sure how to automate, go talk to Bharathi. But the fact is that you want to automate your system because you want it to be as like self-generated as possible. Have the messages go out, have the WhatsApps, have the emails, have as many of the automated things in place. If you have no SOP, you cannot automate, right, Bharathi? Like it's impossible.
True,
you know, take as much away from humanity as possible. 97% system, 3% human.
Yeah.
Okay. You know, and so I would say like SOPs is the first thing. Second thing is like persistent follow-up. And then the third thing I would say on follow-up is that give them a choice. Give them a choice to end the contact point. Don't be afraid of it.
Yeah.
And I saw somebody ask about cold calling. Yeah, cold calling is a pain in the ass. Yeah, cold calling sucks. You know why cold calling sucks? Because you haven't tilled the soil to have people coming to you instead.
Yeah.
If your marketing and advertising are on point, it should be follow-up. It shouldn't be lead gen. Salespeople should not be, in my opinion, salespeople should not be in lead gen. They should be closing. And that's it. So they are the ones that deal with the lead once it's come in. You should have a business development arm that's tied into the marketing arm. And marketing's job is to do the research, advertising, copy, and business development go out. They bring the leads in and sales closes the deal. You split the commission across all of them. That's how I would do it.
Perfect. Perfect. Thank you so much, bro. I think almost we have run. Yeah.
Yeah, there's all kinds of stuff. Yes, do a trial run. You don't make the first product, the product that you take, you don't spend like $1 million developing a product you don't know if it works. Do a trial run. Please.
And, yes, bro, we have come to the end of the webinar. And almost, thank you so much, bro, from my heart and for your first session. And really, really, it's awesome. And we got a lot of distinction, I believe. And I hope everyone in the room has enjoyed as well. And hope to see you soon in India, bro.
Thank you very much, Bharathi. Just really quick, for people who want to follow me on the screen, these are the things that you can follow. Cavemen Global, we run weekly FB Lives on Wednesday. And then if you want to follow me in particular, those are my Instagram and my Facebook handles. Follow me on that. I'm happy to talk to you. Just chat in that. Love it.
Will do, bro. And thank you so much for everyone. Thank you so much, bro. Thank you so much.
Thank you. Sadhu, sadhu, sadhu.